That's annoying. Don't want to make that sound. Test, test, yes.
Yeah, those two were very good for sure. Yeah, that's when it actually became college numbers. Worked on the rest of those conditions that was big. But Auburn was in that position kind of well. Yeah, college sponsorship.
Okay.
Very similar conversations. It's just
Yeah.
it's really cool.
Just met PDA yes, yeah, we met
That's funny.
Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, compared to like Asian
Oh, I
style.
just got two of the nicest people in the world.
Yeah.
So,
And the senior
if you're clear, you're definitely going to get a different thought on it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to see how they work in there.
Yeah,
It's still work. It's interesting. It's weird where we have only laws there's all the regulations that FAA and and so the person was like, I have to take very secret and so I can't still sponsor them and things like that. Like, I can't do advertising or whatever. So like I can do direct advertising, but like I can't use anything, which closes the time. I have to go to partnerships. It is interesting. So yeah, it was kind of different. Yeah, we're the able to we are kind of putting some of our marketing strategy and working on the college stuff, which is why I'm working on so I said there might be some time in here. The concepts are like all
Surely, yeah. Recoup that. I know, like, you are.
Yeah.
We charge her.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I know. So we'll see. That we've been talking about
Check, check.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Yes. That's I don't know. I was going to text them. I wasn't sure if they and actually very nice to meet you. So I think quite I mean, so that makes sense. And I did an interview last week about trying to there. So I'm just trying to get some publicity out there. Ohio State League for College State. Yeah, and I haven't heard he's doing it well. One of them, so So they already been coming out of the trend, like they fly out of Chicago every day. So I can think yes. And that's why the Ohio State.
Because then we get people coming in, spending their money, and they're friendly, it's not close.
Yeah.
So I'm Brandon. Nice to meet you. Michael, nice to meet you. So you're the executive president of UNL College. You're the executive. Okay. You're correct. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Yes. You know, I'm glad you guys are in Lincoln, but my childhood memories of that space are so much more fun. And I'm sure that this is fun. But that used to be the arcade now. Back in the day, long ago. That was not the dodgiest arcade. That was like the one from all it was dark and my parents didn't make me go in. So how are you guys? Yeah, it was called WC Frank's. It was a hot dog, like you buy hot dogs, sodas. It was filled with like we'd go there to play Mortal Kombat. And like the Dragon Slayer one, where it was just video, it was awesome. You'd watch other people play that one. It was like the Dragon Slayer. Dragon's Lair.
It's going to small fortune.
Yeah, so that was like the
I remember that building
So that's where we came next.
It was probably that longer than the regular. That's just what I'm saying.
I was
Yeah.
Yep. When we consider the college
Noon. 3 minutes.
So the mic type of the stream, is that what you want us to use it? Because if it's for the people in here, I'll probably just have to.
Yeah. If you, I mean, the mic's just for in here because it's a really echoey room. It's called the Resonator Gallery, and I hope you're trying to put in some sound fusion that they like. It's echoiness. So yeah, it's just to that, and so that it comes through clearly on the mic on the stream. The mic doesn't go to the stream.
Okay.
That'll be next month after we figure that part out. We're implementing some new stuff and we're some personnel changes, so we're going with the easy. We know it works out there. And so, where do you do business in the U.S.? What's your role at opendorse? You fly all over?
I work on the brand side, so essentially anybody who's looking to work with athletes, mainly a lot of agencies and brands, but on the local side, there's local businesses who utilize our platform to work with athletes. So my job is more about just making people aware that this exists. So we do a lot of conversations and demos with brands and agencies who are looking to work with athletes. It's been a lot of fun. It's a fairly new thing overall. Athlete endorsements are not new, but it is to college. So training, our best customers are the ones who we were already working with on the pro side, and now it's just educating them and training them on how they can work with student athletes.
Cool. And everybody's figuring that out at the same time.
It's still a lot of
Wild West.
Yeah, there's a lot of learning going on, but very, very interesting. Very cool and overdue and exciting opportunities for the athletes.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, part of the reason I think it's so closed up. I mean, when I was a kid, there were host families for football players, they get cars, they did all kinds of free stuff just because they were customers.
Yeah.
More so in Florida.
For sure, yeah. Remember when SMU death penalty was the late 80s.
Yeah, that's a crazy time.
That's just such a lot. It's like a lot of things like
Yeah. No, that's what it ended here. Brandon's hosting football players. They come over there, on weekends for weekend. All right. Let's get rolling. Hi, this is Brendan Evans, and we've got some people in the room here, and then other people who are joining us on Facebook Live, on our Facebook stream, on our Leadership Lincoln page. We are happy to have everybody here today. This is a return to our in-person Hot Topics discussion. Of course, we're carrying forward the things we learned in the pandemic. Today we're doing pretty basic streaming setup, and this will improve as we go through, and we're going to be streaming a lot more of our content. Just like we did last year, but just trying to facilitate it in a hybrid environment so people that want to be in person can be in person, and people that want to check it out on their computer will be able to do that. Our committee, we have a Hot Topics committee, which is about 10 or 15 people that rotates, that plans our monthly discussions, and they really do an awesome job of donating their time and expertise and connections and helping us to set up these kinds of informative discussions. And really this last year, it had been, we do 5 or 6. I think we did one almost every month up until, did we do one last month? We did. Yeah, we've done one almost every month because there have been so many important things to talk about as our community and businesses and organizations have navigated the pandemic. Just some thank yous to our board of director members, our committee volunteers. We're just kicking off our new program year. We had our youth orientation last night. We'll have our youth retreat this weekend, Sunday night and Monday, out at Camp Solaris, which we're looking forward to. And we had a great time last evening meeting a lot of those youth participants. Our adult cohorts get started in September, and also in September, we've got our State of the City address coming up on September 28th at Embassy Suites, and that's a morning kind of a breakfast function where Mayor Larry Gail Bear will present kind of a state of where the city's at, where we've been, where we're going. And it's always informative, and there's just so many great projects happening in Lincoln right now that we encourage everybody to come on out and check it out. It's also a time to meet and see faces of our new adult cohorts for executives, fellows, youth, and advocates. And we're adding an alumni cohort this year that'll be meeting 5 times in kind of a dinner discussion group, creating a think tank of Leadership Lincoln leaders where you'll have the opportunity to hear some of the speakers and programming that we bring in for our regular cohorts, but also the chance to weigh in and kind of act as a think tank of leaders for our community. So we're still taking some applications for that through September, and that kicks off in October. Check out our website at leadershiplincoln.org and submit a volunteer application if you're interested. And with that, I'm going to introduce Rachel Barth, who you may know because she has an amazing Lincoln Airport campaign that's everywhere and just so awesome in promoting our airports, especially as they move forward with their awesome projects. And she's also on our planning committee for Hot Topics, so she will do the introductions today. And she's in our Leadership Lincoln executive cohort, and she will be spearheading the committee for our toddler cohort, which we're excited to hear more about.
I don't know about that. So thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to be the moderator for this topic. When we were brainstorming a few months ago, this is actually the topic I brought up that I really wanted covered. So I'm really interested in our 2 speakers today and excited to get them here to talk about it. It is, as we said, definitely a hot topic and one that's been all over the news, and so I think it'll be good to have some industry experts here to discuss further. So just a little bit about myself. I'm the Director of Communications at the Lincoln Airport. Been there a little over a year, and Brendan already kind of gave my background with my connections with Leadership Lincoln, and very appreciative again to be accepted into the executive cohort and to help out with Hot Topics. So let's begin. I'm going to introduce our panelists today. We have Joe Petsick. Joe is currently the executive in residence for the College of Business at the University of Nebraska. In his role, Joe offers an entrepreneurial lens in which to help evaluate opportunities that can help advance the college for students, faculty, and the community. And then we also have Michael Zoerb. Michael's with Opendorse. It is a sports technology company that maximizes endorsements value for athletes. Today, more than 50,000 athletes, 35,000 of whom are student athletes around the world, use Opendorse to understand, build, protect, and monetize their brands with support from partners, including hundreds of brands. Michael leads the team focused on helping sponsors and advertisers activate with students and pro athletes with the Opendorse Deals Marketplace. So again, thank you both for being here today. We're going to kick off with Michael, so go ahead and come on up.
All right, it looks like my computer went to sleep. 1 second here. There we go.
Screen does look great on the
All right, we're back. The hotspot went off when the computer went to sleep. Again, my name is Michael Zoerb. Thank you for having me today. I'm with Opendorse. As Rachel introduced, thank you for the nice introduction. We're an athlete endorsement technology company based right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, founded by two former Husker football players, Blake Lawrence and Adi Kanalik. If those names sound familiar to you. Been around about 10 years, but the last couple years have really seen a lot of growth and expansion with our company, and since July 1, with the emergence of name, image, likeness in college athletics, it's been an absolute explosion for our company. It's been a lot of hours here in the last 41 days. So I'm happy to talk on a variety of topics, but I think the main thing I want to try to expose everybody to today is just what it is that Opendorse does and how you might be able to utilize us to help what you do in your daily lives, which, like Rachel, is to market and promote the Lincoln Airport. So I am sitting, hopefully people on the live stream can see the screen behind me. If not, this is just our website, opendorse.com. And in here is where you can access the Opendorse Deals Marketplace. And so I'm already in here now. This is the Discover Network. So what this is showing you is a thumbnail of every athlete profile on the Opendorse platform. The bio said 50,000, but happy to report we just crossed 51,000, growing at about 1,500 to 2,000 athletes per week since July 1st. As college athletes are realizing that this is now available to them, an opportunity, and by building a profile on Opendorse, they can be seen in the marketplace, and people who want to work with them can find them and work with them. So think of an Opendorse profile for an athlete like a LinkedIn profile. I'm sure all of us in this room and on the stream have a LinkedIn profile. It is theirs, the athletes. They can open it, they can give whatever information they want about themselves. As you can see, put profile pictures, link their social media accounts, and that is what lets people who want to work with them know who they are, and where they're from, their background, what they're interested in, and what they might be willing to do. So when we talk about NIL, or name, image, likeness activities, what does that mean? I'm gonna click on here and find some profiles here that we can look at. You can filter this. I mentioned 51,000, so you're not going to just sit there and scroll through. You can apply filters, and the hot topic right now is student athletes. So I just applied a filter that said, show me only the student athlete profiles. And in a minute here, I'll add another layer, because I'm sure here in Lincoln, we're all interested about Huskers. So we can add, this is showing you now, it's sorted by Twitter reach. So the athlete with the most, student athlete with the most Twitter followers on Opendorse is Sharif O'Neal. That name might sound familiar. It's Shaquille O'Neal's son. He plays at LSU right now. A quarterback we'll be facing later this year, Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma, comes in second. And there's our guy, Adrian Martinez. Let's click on him for a minute. This is a good example of a profile. Adrian's done a great job of building out his profile. He's got nice photos, he's got a bio about himself, he's got his location and information about his demographics. He has his social accounts linked, he has what his interests are, and then any accolades. And so these activities you see here are activities that you can work with Adrian on. So anything from online activities like a social post or content creation, or if you'd like to use his image in any sort of marketing, that's securing their name, image, likeness rights, or offline activities like an appearance or an autograph signing or a private lesson, throwing lesson for your kid, things like that. Because opendorse is not only able to be utilized by companies and sponsors and brands, but fans can get in here and work with athletes on activities. So when I say NIL activities, this is a full list of all the things, and I mentioned quite a few of them. One thing that I think is really exciting is seeing some of the local student athletes, the Huskers, getting creative with hosting camps for young athletes. Or I've seen now a handful of our student athletes here at Nebraska starting podcasts and creating content, which is a great NIL activity that they can then go monetize that, just like any other content creator in the city with a radio station or a podcast or whatnot. Now student athletes can create and control their own content and potentially monetize that through their NIL activities. So that's a real brief overview. I know we have about 10 minutes to speak, so I don't want to spend a ton of time just all on that. But that is the main thing I wanted to make sure that I show today, is just how easy it is to navigate and find athletes that you might want to work with in your everyday business life or in your personal life. There's been some really interesting examples of NIL activities that we've seen come through the platform in the first 41 days. And there's some interesting stats and data that we're learning from as well. A couple that I like to highlight, and they're public, so I can talk about them, is a youth volleyball coach in the state of Wisconsin had their All-American volleyball player recorded a shout-out video for the team after they won a big tournament, congratulating them on the win, and was able to, pay her a small fee to do that. And those are the stories that I think are really interesting when it comes from the fan perspective. And then from the brand perspective, even in the first 41 days, there's so many examples and opportunities of people utilizing this and creating opportunities for our student athletes. A couple that have been made public that I can talk about. There's a national delivery app company called GoPuff, who went really big into this space and offered essentially any student athlete in the country a standard offer to put out a social post to promote their delivery app. And so far to date, 4,000 student athletes have been able to take advantage of that offer and work with GoPuff to promote their delivery app, which is a pretty interesting and very scalable campaign. If you think about prior to a technology like opendorse existing, to coordinate a campaign like that, you would literally have to get in touch with 4,000 people and have them do that activity and provide them what you need. And so that's the beauty of our platform, is it provides the technology to make the process streamlined, efficient, transparent, compliant, so that working with athletes is very, very simple for you as well as the athlete. Because when you go and, let's say we're going to book a deal with Adrian here, as you build out this deal offer, a very important piece of the student athlete endorsement industry is the fact that they need to do disclosures. So unlike professional athletes, where nobody really cares if they get a deal, great, good for you, they don't need to know the details. Student athletes, there is a disclosure process, a compliance piece that goes along with this. So you can see here, as I'm using the platform to build out an offer that we can send Adrian, I'm putting in activities, and those can be online activities like a Twitter post or Instagram post. It can be a podcast appearance, a digital interview, photo audio creation, which is a very popular one, where student athletes are creating some content that brands will use to promote a product, or an appearance, meet and greet, or autograph signing. So with those, you build this out, you provide a fulfillment date and a payment. And the reason this is laid out the way that it is, if you think about it, the disclosure process for the student athlete. They need to let you know who paid you, how much to do what, when, and where, right? Well, by building this offer out the way that we've built this technology, it's essentially building the disclosure form for them. So where if Adrian says, yeah, this looks great, I'll do this, and he hits accept on this offer, then with one click of a button, he can now disclose the activities to the school through the disclosure process. So that was a very brief run through on how you do this, but that was kind of my number one objective in coming here today is to help make people aware of this and also answer any questions or try to highlight a couple of things that we really need to be aware of when it comes to potentially working with athletes to make sure that we're doing things that are on the best interests of them as well. Because there is a lot of opportunity at hand here, but you need to remember you're working with student athletes, and this is the first time they've been able to do something like this, so there's a lot of learning going on. And so we're trying to do a lot of coaching both on the athlete side of this equation, as well as coaching on the brand and fan side of this, where it's when you're submitting an offer, you're asking them to do something, make sure that you're educated on what it is they can or cannot do, and don't ask them to do something that they may not be able to do. And that's an important piece of opendorse business as well. What I just touched on is opendorse Deals, which is our marketplace. The other side of our business is our school partnerships. So we're now partnered with, I think the number is growing by the day, but I think it's about 125 schools around the country who utilize opendorse and our software to provide education to their student athletes through our opendorse Ready program, which Nebraska is a partner of. And that provides education, training, curriculum all about what is NIL, how can you develop and build a brand, how can you maximize your brand, what are some things that you need to do through this process. Opendorse Social, which is the way that athletic departments and universities distribute content to athletes. So when you see a player and they may post like a really cool video of a recap of the game, that player didn't necessarily create that video. The school created it and can deliver it to the athlete to post to help them build an audience and a following, and that is permissible. That's content that is for editorial purpose. It's not to monetize, but schools use opendorse Social to deliver that content to athletes. And then opendorse Monitor is the compliance software. This is where the disclosures come in, and the school can kind of keep track of everything to make sure that the student athletes don't get in a situation that could jeopardize their eligibility. So opendorse kind of has the school partnership side of our business as well as the marketplace side of our business. A lot of information there. I hope that wasn't like information overload and helpful. If as a follow-up to this, I know we're going to get into some Q&A, but I want to make sure I pass the mic literally to Joe and let him kind of touch base on his experience and involvement and background in this NIL space and what they're doing at the University of Nebraska, who I'm not just saying this as a proud alum, or Nebraska is a partner of opendorse, so I'm not just saying this because of that. We, as I mentioned, we work with over 100 universities around the country, and I can genuinely say Nebraska is on the leading edge of what they're doing to prepare and equip their student athletes to fully maximize the opportunities that are coming along with this change to name, image, and likeness. So, with that, I'll pass the mic to Joe.
Thanks, Michael.
What output is in this thing? Use it as a visual aid. Okay. I know this is a little bit hard to read from a distance, but I'll walk through some of this. But I just want to kind of use this as a way to kind of walk you through the entire name, image, and likeness program. And as Michael noted, on July 1, college athletics really changed, and in maybe the most dramatic way that it has at any given time. In essence, college students now have student athletes have the opportunity, right, to earn money off their image and likeness. And it was interesting because as things were progressing to July 1, there have been several different issues that everyone was trying to sort out to determine how NIL, as it's more commonly referred, was going to come out. And most people were expecting the NCAA to launch a significant amount of information and regulations related to what you could and couldn't do. That did not happen. The NCAA, after losing a Supreme Court ruling that questioned its antitrust capacity, decided to basically back off in most instances, let the schools and or the state that laws had already been passed kind of rule how each university would manage NIL. About a year and a half prior to that, some big changes came, and I'll talk about how I got involved in this. So again, my name is Joe Petzek. I'm the executive in residence at the University of Nebraska College of Business. It's a new role. It's only been there a few years. I'm not an academic. I guess I most readily explain myself as an entrepreneur. I started a company 20 years ago in Omaha called ProxyVid, and was fortunate enough to be able to grow that into a great company. And about a year and a half ago, our company was acquired. And I knew at the time I was going to exit the company and pursue some of the passion projects I've been working on. And I've been involved with the university's College of Business, specifically the Center for Entrepreneurship. At the time, I had been advocating that the center get more active and involved on the campus and in the business community. And that was something that Dean Kathy Farrell took into the strategic planning session and came out with the concept of this new role of executive in residence. So in essence, my job is really to look at the college through an entrepreneurial lens and to challenge some of the things it's doing to try to help it move in directions that it might not have on its own, or change some things it's doing, but hopefully get better connected to and become even a bigger resource for the Nebraska business community. One day, I was sitting in my office in the college. I happened to have a great view of the stadium. And I was in school in Lincoln in the early and mid-90s, so it was a great time to be a Husker fan. Things were going pretty well, and I happened to be fortunate to also know a significant amount of the student athletes, both on the football team, volleyball team, and basketball team. And I was thinking about all those students one day as I was staring at the stadium. I started to write a list down of all the people that I still know now, either from there or that I've met since then are student athletes. And after I got to about the 30th name, it dawned on me as I looked back at the list, and everybody on the list was an entrepreneur. So to me, that was interesting. All these student athletes, now eligibility expired, no longer, if they weren't playing professionally, no longer doing it. All of them now are in roles that are mostly entrepreneurial, if not starting a business of their own. And that made me wonder if the university and the athletic department had made that connection. And I really started thinking about what maybe we could do and how it could be done to help those student athletes. So what happened if we built some programming for them that was available to them when they walked on campus to help them discover and grow that capacity to be an entrepreneur versus waiting until they're about to step off campus, which is what traditionally happened. So I started knocking on doors in the athletic department and made my way to Dennis LeBlanc and Keith Zimmer, who run the academics program and the life skills program, and kind of laid out my thesis and talked to them about what I thought we could help build for the College of Business that might be incredibly impactful for those students and for the state. They had not made that specific connection in that way yet, but they totally understood what I was talking about and recognized it as an opportunity. And we sat down and started talking about how the College of Business could build this program. It wasn't soon after I started building it that I recognized there was a bigger opportunity about a year and a half away. Because name, image, and likeness at that time was pretty much in everyone's mind known to probably start on July 1, due to, at the time, one state law in California that it would go into effect on that date, and then subsequent states followed on and also chose a similar date. So on July 1, we knew it was going to be real. And that's where I realized there was an opportunity to maybe build something even bigger and bolder. And my thinking started this way. The University of Nebraska's athletic department has a history of being an innovator. In fact, I would argue that the reason Nebraska is a national brand is because they were an innovator. In essence, what we saw mostly demonstrated through the football team over the years is that they found a way to level the playing field and compete on the national stage when they had so many disadvantages compared to the schools they're competing against. So right, the University of Nebraska offered the first weight training program, the first nutrition program. There's so many firsts, it's hard to name, but they were always out in front, leading the way to what ultimately would widely be adopted by many other schools, which unfortunately then started to lose some of that advantage. But it was that sense of innovation that I wanted to tap into. And my idea was pretty simple. Once I recognized that this was an opportunity we could explore, I started really researching what was going on around the country at the time. I started calling and talking to people at universities and other places that would talk. I started to work more closely with people already in the mix, Blake Lawrence being one of those people at Opendorse. And we started talking about possibilities of what we could do. And the one thing I recognized that a theme was adopted that pretty much almost across the board when I talked to most every other school is that their goal was, we're working on a way to help athletes make money. And it kind of stopped right there. For me, I thought that there was more that we could do. And instead, my idea and what I presented to the athletic department was an approach that instead of just helping athletes make money, let's instead focus on helping them learn how to build a business around themselves that they can then in turn make more money. So knowing that they already have this penchant for entrepreneurship, knowing that it's something that the attributes that they use to become successful in the sports that they're in translate incredibly well to entrepreneurship. Let's see if we can do something with that. So I really ultimately wound up working with them to build the program. And the image that let's see if we can get the screen link back up here. This image is ultimately the kind of the final kind of blueprint that ultimately launched. And you can see the opendorse component right now that Michael's talked about is obviously one of those significant branches. The other one, the Husker Advantage program, is the life skills program. These are a series of mandatory courses that all the athletes go through that basically ensure that they get exposure to a lot of the information and topics that could benefit them. And the part that I'm going to talk about is what we built on campus through the College of Business, which is the Accelerate program. And Accelerate is basically focused on really around their entrepreneurial attributes. And it's kind of a three-pronged approach. The first thing we're going to do is help them each identify their individual entrepreneurial attributes. The second thing we're going to do after that is we're going to teach them how to strengthen those attributes. And then lastly, we're going to help them learn how to put them into action. So if they use a platform like Opendorse and have stuff in the deals, we want to put them in a position that they can be the best at it because we gave them tools to help them understand how to build a business around themselves and how to use the tool in a business sense in a way that others might not be able to do. So really what we did is focus on using some of the assets that we already have on campus. So there's incredible assets on campus and in the College of Business that we knew we could put to work here. The first was the Clifton Strengths Institute, which exists from a gift from Gallup. And the Builders program, which is an entrepreneurial program that uses an assessment test called the BP10 or the Builder Profile 10, helps identify individuals' entrepreneurial attributes, as well as Clifton strengths, right? So now every incoming and existing student athlete has and will have taken here by the end of the summer their strengths finder to get their top 25 strengths. We'll then in turn work with them to a coaching network that already exists on campus through the Clifton Strengths Institute to help them learn how to lean into those strengths, right? So how can they do more with those things, and what is the best way for them to approach problems and to work on building a business around themselves. We'll do the same with the Builder Profile 10 and the attributes that it lays out and teaches. On top of that, we're creating a number of new 1 credit hour courses that will be available on campus starting this fall. The first 4 of them will come online in the second 8 weeks of the semester. These 1 credit courses are 8 weeks long. They're all focused on attributes of entrepreneurship or brand building. And it really lets the athlete basically be able to dive into and get more in-depth knowledge and instruction on how to start to utilize the tools that they have. So for instance, here in this first upcoming fall semester, the first 4 classes that will be available, there'll be a strengths finder course that will help teach them more about the strengths that they just now identified in themselves. There'll be a course on financial literacy, like the components of starting and building and running a business. There'll be a course on how to pitch yourself and your ideas. and another on how to build a brand around yourself. And that class is going to be actually taught through a partnership with the College of Journalism. So that course we recognize would be potentially important in a way that we could get other colleges and campuses involved. So beyond that strengthening component, we've then moved forward to the activation component. How do we help them now take what they've learned and put it into play? So one way that we're going to do this, and a unique opportunity that we're going to provide to the students here, is we're creating a team of students that will form a group of NIL advisors. In a similar fashion to the way that a student athlete would use a tutor when they needed help in a class that they weren't doing well in, they're going to have access to a group of students who are going to basically be focused on understanding and learning all things NIL, as well as contributing other attributes that they bring to the table. For instance, one of our first NIL advisors that we're working with started a business in high school that he and his brother have continued to run incredibly well. So he's got a tremendous amount of first-hand experience and can relate to them by way of being the same age about what it really takes to run a business and build a business. But also is a sports fanatic. So he's been following and running through everything NIL related. And the goal is that we'll take our NIL advisors and we'll connect them through all the resources that are available. So for instance, we will have them connected to the opendorse team. So when the folks at opendorse learn about new trends, topics, regulations, or things that are important and can be beneficial to the student athlete, especially if they can utilize them quickly, those NIL advisors will be able to sit down with those athletes one-on-one and help them if they don't understand how to take advantage of it on their own. The NIL advisors will also be unique because they'll help point the athletes to resources that we're also bringing online on campus. So for instance, the College of Law currently has an entrepreneurship clinic that it runs within it. We're actually extending its services so that now these college athletes can get access to those services. So for instance, if one of the athletes, we'll use Adrian Martinez from Michael's example, realized that the best and smartest thing for him to do was to create an LLC to actually run all of this out of, the College of Law will help him actually get that LLC spun up. Can also work with him on, trademark issues, licensing issues, and things that he'll have to be aware of and concerned with as he's building his business to protect himself. The College of Journalism today has actually inside of it an entire agency called Yacht that actually can work with each of the student athletes if they need graphics for the football camp that Michael mentioned. They need to be able to start promoting it, or they need posters created that they can put up back in their hometown and at their high school. Yacht and other resources like that will be available to them on campus. So not only will these great resources be available to them, we also hope it helps insulate, right? So one of the fears that a lot of the coaches have today is, especially as NIL grows, is how many people are going to be coming after each of them individually with an offer or an opportunity. How many companies are going to say that, hey, I can help you gain more deals, or I can build your graphics for you, or I'll do your legal work. And how is an athlete who's already overscheduled supposed to be able to make a decision of what's the difference between a good company and a bad company? What's the difference between someone that really wants to help and someone who's simply a predator? And it's these kinds of things that we want to bring on, that we'll bring online on campus to help them out. And again, the focus, and one of the things I really love about this is all those pop-up classes that I mentioned to you. Within the next probably year and a half, we've identified dozens of topics, and we're having some of the experts teach them. We're working with Huddle right now to develop a couple of courses that they'll teach. I know that I've had discussions with folks at opendorse about coming on campus and actually teaching a pop-up class. The great part about these pop-up classes is that even though the athletics and NIL was the genesis to create them and get them online very quickly, they're available to every student on campus. So the beautiful part is that we have now all these new courses on entrepreneurship and the topics within it available to any student and any college that can jump in and take these courses. And the hope actually is that we create an opportunity for more collisions between student athletes and other students. I think the podcast, again, another example with Adrian Martinez, right? Adrian had an idea to create a podcast and had the content that he knew that he thought he could build and deliver, and didn't know how to build a podcast. And was pointed to a professor in the College of Journalism who connected him with someone he knew who knew how to build a podcast but didn't have any context. And two of them came together to be able to build that podcast. And it's those kind of collisions and connections that we hope to build more and more of in this kind of whole outbreak. So that image kind of shows you how all that stuff breaks out in the three components inside of it, and how they're all connected and under the same umbrella that they're calling Nebraska. And the best part is that the alignment between them is really intentional, right? The education component on all three, the strengthening component, and then the performance and activation component, all built to really work together and to give Nebraska student athletes an advantage that no one else that will find in the country. So, in essence, the great part about this is that we approached this by thinking about every athlete as a startup, and we decided to give them tools so that they can, in fact, build that startup. And the way that this works and how it can help them benefit with tools like opendorse and things like that should put them in a position to perform and excel above the rest of the country. So that's everything in a nutshell. I know I did move kind of quickly through that.
So Petzek, I have a quick question. And repeated the mic so everybody else.
Sure.
I'm going to invite Mike to join us too.
And here, but so like the branding services that are in the J School and like the LLC, the clinic, are those available to other students or just student athletes?
So the question was from Brandon, is the services that are available to the student athletes also available to other students? And he particularly talked about YAD and the College of Journalism.
The answer is yes. I mean, most of them are available to students already, but what we're really trying to do is also adjust some of them so that they can be more mindful of the sports and branding component. But the beauty of most of the programming is really, if you're a music major, for instance, and you think that you might want to be a songwriter at some point, and you have no idea how to do that, these courses will be perfect. How to build a brand around yourself course would apply for that aspiring songwriter just as well as with that athlete. So the context that most of the students bring into these courses will give them the equal benefit, even though that they're there for separate reasons. If that makes sense.
I'm jealous. I was a co-JMC grad, and this would be amazing. And props to Yacht for jumping on this and helping out too, because for those advertising, PR, communication students, what a great experience to get to be able to, help out other students on campus and athletes. Absolutely. Can you give me just a second?
And then I just want to follow up and say, I can't emphasize enough how good this is. I mentioned earlier, we're working with over 100 universities. And this is the most comprehensive collaboration between athletics and campus that we've seen, and I'm proud that it's coming from my university, and I think Joe's exactly right. It's going to give our, not only student athletes, hopefully students across the board, advantages that they're just not seeing at other universities. Unfortunately, I got to be careful how I say this, but opendorse provides one leg of this. But we're not the solve for NIL for universities, but unfortunately not all universities realize that, but here in Nebraska, it's great to see the approach that they're taking to this.
I have a question. So we mentioned that I'm at the Lincoln Airport, and this is something that we are potentially looking into, and so I really appreciate you showing us the platform and but how do you go about that? Like if I were to call you guys and say, hey, we're looking at doing a campaign, maybe about a new flight or a destination, we want to tie in with some of our student athletes, maybe that are from, let's say Minneapolis. Is that something that we would get like a rep from opendorse that would maybe help us find an athlete, or do you just go on, plug in the information and hope that Adrian Martinez thinks the Lincoln Airport's cool?
It's a good question, and the answer is twofold. Essentially, the marketplace is self-serve, no different than you can book your vacation by going to Kayak and finding your flight and booking a hotel and booking a car rental and doing it all yourself, or we have the option where you can contact a travel agent and they do it for you, right? So it depends on what it is you're looking to do, but the marketplace itself is pure self-serve. Anyone can get in there and do that. If you're looking to work with one athlete on one activity, that's probably something that you just can do on your own. Whereas to use the same analogy, if you're going to book a family reunion for 100 people, you're probably going to rely on a travel agent to help pull that off. The same goes for a campaign. If you're looking to work with, multiple athletes over a period of time across multiple activities, and it's a full-fledged campaign. That's when you can utilize the services of opendorse to kind of help layer in that concierge effect.
Okay, Brady, you have a question?
Yeah, whoever's, maybe has the best information on this, but could companies use this to recruit athletes to other schools? So say you've got a brand like Nike that's really strongly associated with the University of Oregon. Could they say, well, if you come to the University of Oregon, we'll give you a $150,000 sponsorship for women?
In case you didn't hear the question on Facebook, Brennan asked a company like Nike, who is strongly associated with the University of Oregon, could they use that to kind of coax an athlete to come to Oregon if they say, hey, we'll give you all this free gear?
Great question, and the answer is no. So there are a few rules, and this gives me the opportunity to put some of those out there. That would be considered pay for play, or recruiting inducement, more likely, I guess. But you cannot pay a student athlete as an inducement to attend a specific university. The offer cannot be contingent on what institution they are enrolled at or their performance on the field. So unfortunately, we've had to work with some people already because we've seen some copy and pasting going on this is how they work with pro athletes. So they just assume this is how they can work with student athletes. And you'll see if you're all conference, then we'll pay you this, and if you're all American, we'll pay you this, and if you're, and that just is not, you can't do that in the college space because that's pay for play. The compensation cannot be tied to their performance on the field or their enrollment at a specific university. It has to purely be based on their marketability. What value are they bringing to your product?
So even if they're injured.
Correct, yeah. So if somebody makes a season-long offer and they're going to have them promote something for the year, and then game one that athlete gets injured, the brand cannot revoke that offer. It is, hey, we're paying you because you have an audience, and we want you to speak to that audience about our product, and it has nothing to do with what the performance on the field. So yeah, if injury is a great example, or if they get benched because they're not playing well, that offer still stands. Because if they revoke the offer, then that is a very clear violation that was a pay for play and not an actual marketing agreement.
That being said, the NCAA definitely has probably dropped the ball here in the fact that people were expecting much more specific regulations and a way to better understand exactly what they could and couldn't do. And in the proposed legislation that they were thought to have been considering prior to their backing off the table, they actually drew some really specific lines and built some walls between groups and communities that stopped them from being able to help each other certain ways. And in fact, part of what made July 1 crazy was that everyone was waiting for the NCAA to drop the rules, and then when they said, guess what, no rules except for don't pay for play, and everyone kind of actually was like, oh, what do we do now? Because everyone was preparing for the more stricter, more over-regulated approach. And my guess is that will come, whether it's the NCAA or federal regulation, or even states that start to recognize that this is getting out of hand. But it is, in essence, kind of the Wild West in terms of how this is all coming and unfolding early days.
So as kind of an entrepreneurship expert, I've been approximate to kind of give you an idea of strategy and gamesmanship. Do you think there's kind of equal-sized groups of people that want to associate with your program versus people that want to keep, where there's more free agent, if they're not associated, what I'm saying, not associated with the program?
Yeah, so your question was if there are more groups of people out there that may want to associate with certain programs and components of the program, is that right?
Right, so sponsors that want to associate with programs versus sponsors that want to be able to pull athletes from any program.
Yeah, and I think there is a sense of that that's starting to develop in there, but I'll also add one other thing here that is interesting and something to keep in mind. Nebraska actually stands, I think, to take advantage of NIL in a pretty unique way when you compare them to other areas of the country. First of all, as we all know, there's no professional sports here, so they're the only game in town. The other thing we also know, for those of us that are fans, is that we kind of are pretty detail-oriented and understand what's going on in these programs more than a lot of other fans do. Interestingly, most of us know the name of the walk-on from Oregon, Nebraska, just as well as we know the name of the blue chipper recruiter from Florida. What's interesting about that is I think it gives these athletes, student athletes, more opportunity to participate in NIL than we see at other schools. They can go deeper into the rosters. Sports that don't typically get highlighted or have exposure aren't going to necessarily, they'll do better here. And I think the actual biggest winner in the early days of NIL you'll see are going to be female athletes. For several reasons. One, most of them already have more robust, connected social media accounts, and they've already built a brand and have been recruiting people to buy into what they're selling in terms of their sport, right? I think too, I think in the early days, people may even find them a little bit of a safer bet. They're not the athlete that tends to, you read about that got in trouble on Saturday night. And there are things like that I think these students are going to have to learn, right? Because we talk about the benefits of NIL and how great it is and sponsors' involvement. But what happens when that first athlete with a big sponsorship deal gets in serious trouble? Like, what does that mean? What kind of repercussions are there? Are deals going to be canceled? Is money going to be owed back? Or are lawsuits perhaps going to even come into this? I mean, these are all unknowns that we don't know enough about yet. But I can almost guarantee you they're going to happen.
I had to laugh because my son's name is Riker, and I get questions all the time if I name my son after Riker Fife. And I'm like, yes, no, I did not name my kid after the backup quarterback. I do know we have a question out here.
Yeah, kind of a little bit what you were talking about with the rules and the regulations. How do you see this long-term factoring into like recruiting? And can it be used as a recruitment tool? And is there a potential that this becomes kind of like a new facilities arbitrage? Like what you do on a sponsorship level, is that what drives that level?
I see exactly what you said. It's the new facilities. Sorry. It's the new facilities world of college football. It's still getting its feet underneath it. You know, I mean, what this is going to look like 2 years from today to right now is going to be wildly different. Right now, everyone's trying to figure out what it really means, how it really works. But what's going to start happening is certain student athletes are going to start showing up in the locker room with new threads, new shoes, maybe pull up in a new car, and other athletes are going to go, well, I want that too. And part of like the role that I'm trying to help facilitate here is giving them tools that if they say they want that, then here's how you can go get it, right? And opendorse is the same thing on that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to question is the jealousy factor that could play into this with that team dynamic of, you know, maybe the star volleyball player gets a really big endorsement and then the rest of the girls don't get anything, and can that play into, some of that jealousy and maybe some of that team. John Cook really strives to have a cohesive team where they're all on the same page and, really strives for that dynamic, and this could really affect that.
I bet that gets spoke about a lot, especially on radio stations. It seems like a topic that likes to be discussed on sports radio, but I personally don't see it. The endorsement world has existed in the professional space for decades, and certain athletes are going to get more opportunities based on certain criteria. And this one is one that I love because if they utilize the tools that are being given to them, then it's go get it then. Go create your opportunity. Because the opportunities that are going to come to them through name, image, likeness have nothing to do with the performance on the field. We have student athletes across the country literally making hundreds of thousands of dollars who don't even start in the sport that they play, because it's about their audience, it's about the brand that they built for themselves, and that's what they're monetizing. It isn't about like the starting position or how many points they had or any of that stuff. Like, this is all, you can drive your own ship with this, and so that's where if someone gets a deal in a locker room and someone's jealous, then I'd say go work with Joe's group and build your brand and increase your audience and go get that deal. Then you can control your own destiny with this.
The student athlete with the most social media, the largest social media following in the country, right, is a female gymnast. Yeah, not a sport that typically gets the most attention. So it just shows she built that brand over time and energy, and now she can actually do something with it, right? That's the cool about it. There's also another really unique thing. I love seeing this happen. Sometimes these athletes learn that if they come together, their unit actually is a bigger brand than they can be. Like, for instance, the offensive lineman at the University of Nebraska, the pipeline. They've come together and kind of created an account, and they're building a brand on that pipeline. And that's a brand that actually is going to probably hand it off to every new athlete that walks in. So there's really, really cool, innovative things that I don't think people are even thinking of yet that I believe you're going to see emerge. But yes, in recruiting, I believe that it's going to be one of the more, I think it's going to rise to the fact that outside of schools like winning tradition and opportunity in sports, it's going to be the next most important thing to an athlete. is that that's what they're going to ask. And the way that I actually discussed this and pitched it to the athletic department when I was talking this concept was, I want a coach to be comfortable so that when they're in the living room, sitting down with a recruit and his or her parents, and the question gets asked, what are you going to do for my son or daughter to ensure that they can maximize their opportunity for NIL while they're at school? I want them to have an answer that is unmatched. That they can lay something like this out in front of someone and they'll never heard anybody talk about it to this level in depth. Whether the student decides to take advantage of it is going to be up to them. But the fact that we're providing it is what I think is great.
And to follow up on that with recruiting, Joe's exactly right. What this looks like 2 years from now is going to look quite different than today. I mean, I don't think anyone would. It didn't launch with the structure that everyone thought that it would, or like it's intended there to be. But it is what it is, and we're just kind of feeling our way through that. And I do believe there is more structure on the way, as Joe said, through either the NCAA or federal legislation. But when I say 2 years from now, the biggest thing I want to allude to that is think about the data points that you'll have. What if, imagine 2 years from now, when that coach is in that living room recruiting the kid and he's laying out what we do for our athletes, and then he also has data to back it up to say, oh, by the way, Huskers tend to earn 50% more on NIL value while they're at school here than that other school you're looking at. Like, that's a real recruiting tool.
Lexi Sun was a great example.
Yeah.
They showed
100%.
what her social media account looked like when she got here, and then what it looks like today. And so Lexi Sun, they have a graphic that they laid out, so it showed how the university and being a fan, being at the school with these fans, is going to give you that heightened audience and an audience that's more likely to participate.
I have no doubt that that might be a good decision.
I bet so. You have a question?
Is there a limit on how much an athlete can make? Is there a dollar limit? And secondly, what are some examples of some endorsements that the universities would not allow? You said they have to get approval from the university.
All right, so great question. So we talked, somebody here asked about a limit. So is there a financial threshold that we can't go over, or are there limitations, maybe alcohol or, some other type of product that maybe an athlete is allowed to market?
No limit, but it brings up a point that I do want to bring out there as well when it comes to compensation. One of the things that we're running into a lot in education sessions with student athletes is the concept of in-kind compensation. So, Joe mentioned a car earlier. If a car dealership wants to work with an athlete for them to market their dealership and promote their specials and offers and all that, and the payment that they get in exchange for that is, say, the lease of a car, the 1 year lease of that car might be, if it's a nice car, we'll call it $500 a month. So that's a $6,000 package for the year, that 1 year lease. That's $6,000 that is compensation that the athlete has to plan on. And when it comes to financial literacy stuff like tax preparation, like they have to pay taxes on that $6,000. So let's say 20%, what is that? $1,200. Like they're going to get a $1,200 tax bill because they got that car for the year, and that's something that is new. And it's because most people think compensation, they think cash, but the in-kind compensation counts as well.
I could expand on that a little bit too. To the other part of your question, are there limitations of what they can sponsor? Yes, the university has created regulations. They can't use gaming sites or marijuana, sites, and they can't sponsor the local strip club. That's up to them.
Sorry, I thought it was monitoring.
It was. He asked a two-part question. The first part was, there isn't much of it. The financial literacy part is incredibly important, right? Interesting. The concept that we kind of talked about in the class, the best way to explain it is that just because you earn $1,000 doesn't mean you can go spend $1,000. And not only because of taxes, but some of them need to be thinking about reinvesting in themselves as a business to try to increase their exposure, right? The reason that we brought the class for one of the first classes we're launching is how to put yourself in your ideas. I think it also helps deal with an issue that a lot of student athletes will understand. Just because NIL is not available, it doesn't mean you put your feet up and all the deals and everything you want comes pouring in. They have to go work for it, and they have to learn how to go out and pitch themselves and ideas, and they have to approach some of those brands that they want. They're not going to all come to them. But the brands they choose and stuff, the universities did create policies about which topics are off limits, and then they do get to say, in case there is something that slipped through the cracks, whether or not they can do something or not.
Yeah, I actually have a question. So we kind of, to circle back, let's just use Adrian Martinez as an example. So if we were to, a business was to approach him through your platform and wanted to, have him do a tweet or appear in a commercial, and they went not through you, but just directly through that platform, is it up to Adrian to like communicate back with that person? And, I'm trying to think about all this stuff that athletes are under as far as practices and viewing film and travel, like, I'm sure that's where the university steps in to help them with that, but you have to get back to the companies on a timely manner, and you're having to deal with, okay, can I do a video shoot between my class and between, weightlifting? Like, how is you planning to manage that?
Yeah, that's a great point. And the time commitment is one that I think is important, and that's why learning these tools will help them, because they get compared a lot to influencers. But influencers, that's what they do. And this is a student athlete. So they're a student first, athlete second, then they're an influencer. So when you're talking about you want to work with them to put out content to promote your products and stuff, this is one of three things that they're juggling, whereas an influencer, this is what they do. They're gonna say, yeah, great, I'll send you 5 different video options for you to choose from, and you pick the one you like best, whereas the student athlete doesn't have time for that. But you mentioned, how do you get in touch with an athlete if not through a platform like ours? The reality is, you can go to find athletes. You can DM them through social media. You could get a hold of them in a variety of different ways. But currently you can go through the athletic department. There's no, like, back to Joe's point on the NCAA, that originally there was going to be this concept of institutional involvement, and the institutions could not be involved in this. But right now there is no rule against that. So in theory, the university can kind of say, at least they can't help broker a deal for an athlete, but they can at least point you in the directions of like the safe places to do it. So that's one resource to get it, to figure out how to get in touch with the athlete. Another is, let me paint that picture to you from Adrian's perspective, right? And I can't speak on details, but I know for a fact he's been pitched many offers. And if all of those people went and were just DMing him, and then he was trying to respond to them and do this or negotiate the deal, and then he would have to go fill out a W-9 for each one of those forms, and they would all prefer each one of those companies if he took the opportunity, and then they would all send him a tax form, right? So it's a lot, and that's where athletes were finding, and again, this is obviously a promotion for Open Doors, but I'm genuine when I say, like, it makes their life easier. If they can just point people who want to work with them to one area, and then the opportunities come funneling through that, and then they can choose which ones they want or don't want, and then Open Doors provides them the tax prep at the end of the year of, hey, here's a statement of all the deals you took and everything that goes with that, and they don't have to try to work out payment and track down W-9s and tax forms for every single company they did something for. Like, it makes their life much simpler. Which is another reason why you're seeing not only athletes who are on their own putting out on social media like, hey, if you want to work with me, find me here. And it's just a link to their Open Doors profile. Like, that's fantastic, right? Because it makes their life easier.
This is a great story that connects what I'm doing with Open Doors. So this actually came from a conversation that Blake, Lawrence, and I were having really early on in this. And I asked Blake a question. I said, of the professional athletes using the platform currently, why and how are some of them better than the others? And he went through a list of things, but one of the things that popped up and they kind of came back to or whatever is that a lot of them are really good because they have people around them helping them, right? They're paying people that actually help them put these things together. That's when we recognize the student athlete's not going to have that benefit in most cases. That was the kind of impetus for the creation of the NIL advisor. It actually came to a conversation that Blake and I were thinking out loud, and we're like, wouldn't it be great if just like a tutor that we could get someone that are helping NIL. So our hope is that our NIL advisor program can even pick up some of the slack. So if someone like Adrian is overwhelmed, one of these advisors might be able to help on some of those issues and help point Adrian in the direction of being able to get some things done more quickly or more efficiently than he'd be able to figure out on his own. The one thing I learned really early on when I was meeting with the athletic department was how already overscheduled an athlete is every day. Their day from the moment they wake up to the moment their head hits a pillow is full, right? And the reason we chose these pop-up classes as a delivery mechanism is because we already knew that they had a portion of the day carved out for classes. So if we could fit them into that same portion, and if we give them these 1 credit hour courses that wouldn't overwhelm them in terms of their existing schedule, that they have to take a same course to graduate, that this would be the best mechanism. But it all falls in line with a lot of things that Michael was saying.
Yeah, because I can imagine if you're trying to, Adrian, schedule him for something, but he's already booked up. I mean, you're gonna have somebody help him with that time management. And as a business who's interested in possibly, going that route or trying to snag, an athlete that a lot of people recognize, understanding that it's gonna be hard to grab him for a commercial in the middle of football season. It's probably not gonna happen, right? Because he's got other things going on. And so you're gonna probably try to start scheduling that stuff well ahead of time. And one thing I know we've even discussed internally is this is a great opportunity for those small town kids to get some, options where, maybe you don't go after the big Adrian Martinez type names because they are going to be already flooded with thousands of offers, but maybe you go after the small town board kid or a small town kid, that can help you, who doesn't maybe have as many offers, but gives them an opportunity to still represent your brand well. And I know from the brand, from the company perspective, that risk is huge. We've talked about that. What if, you are a car dealership and you offer up a car to a student athlete and they make a mistake and they go get a DUI and they're driving a vehicle that you're representing? What if, they make a mistake downtown and something happens, or, whether they're at fault or not, but they make a headline for a really bad reason, and they're representing your brand, what does that look like on you? And that happens with influencers all the time. Nebraska's an Adidas company, and all of a sudden, kid shows up in all Nike gear. What does that happen, and what does that look like?
Well, and I know some of those things the athletic department's addressed. They put in the rules that it's not allowed. They're not allowed to have a competitive brand to something that the athletic department has in place. Again, things can change, things will change, right? And if they build that wall back up again between the athletic department and the student athlete, there's going to be less capacity for the athletic department to tell them what they can and can't do. But they also can't help them like they can at the moment. So we can see those things change, but that's the whole point of trying to give them the tools to educate them, to make them understand that this it's not all bling and fancy and a good time. That there's stuff you have to really consider. And some of them, they're smart. I love like what Cameron Jurgens has done, right? He's created a beef jerky line, right? Making a play off of his last name. And they're selling merchandise and stuff. A lot of these athletes, like Lexi Sun, she created an apparel line. Things that they can turn into real businesses and they can really grow once they leave and take it with them. Because the other thing that Dennis LeBlanc reminded me of very early on in our conversations was that 2 things. One is that his job was to help the student athlete on Plan B. The trouble is they don't even want to admit Plan B exists. So he's already dealing with something that's really challenging. And the reality of it is that 99% of them will not go on to make money in the sport they're playing. So giving them these tools, we're investing in their next 40 years, not just the next 4 years. Because they can take all this stuff and turn it into something once eligibility expires, and there is no professional career beyond it.
Yep, I can't back that up enough. I mean, essentially, this is the stories that are going to hit the headlines are going to be the big deals, but the average student athlete is going to earn hundreds, maybe a few $1,000s off of this opportunity. It's not going to be this huge, massive windfall. I might be underselling it a little bit, but it's the average athlete on the campus is not going to make $100,000. You're talking about 15, 2,000, 3,000, something like that. If they embrace these tools and they get better and better and better, they're just going to increase their opportunities. But this is one of those things where the whole landscape kind of gets painted a certain way because the only things that really get the news wires are like the big crazy deals. So it's kind of an interesting thing.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up our session. Just wanted to thank you both for coming today. I think this was a very well-deserved topic, and it's definitely a hot topic, and really appreciate you both coming, and I think everybody has access to your guys' information that we sent out, so I'm sure you guys will probably be getting some follow-up questions. Brendan, did you want to come up and say any parting words?
A couple of things, thank you. And thank you both for coming today. It's just fascinating, and it's really insightful of the university to bring somebody on board like you, Joe, who has experience in entrepreneurship. Proxy Bid. That was how many years ago did you start that?
20.
20 years ago. So quite a journey. I imagine you got to do all the things, the fun ones and the not ones. So thanks for attending. Thanks for those who joined us online. Thanks for those who will watch this after it's sitting there, because I know a lot of people are on vacation just before school starts next week. Hot topics. September 8th is our next one. It's going to have a focus on labor. And then we've got the State of the City address registrations that will be available on our website soon. So get signed up for the State of the City. It's going to be an interesting one this year. There's lots of amazing projects moving forward. Lincoln's in a state of change and growth, and it's going to be exciting to hear about what's next, as well as meet our Leadership Lincoln participants. Thanks so much.
Picture for the Facebook page.
Yeah. You want to buy this?